obviously at the moment with COVID, everybody's having budget cuts, and we are at risk of losing some entire leagues in football and grassroots in the normal football game. So what would you say to those people who may suggest that by pushing this agenda, the futsal community feel that they're more important than other groups that have been cut funding and possibly may disappear as well?
I'd like to touch on that for the reason being, we're talking about clubs in that instance. I mean, today on the news has been, and Oliver Dowden was called out. A letter was sent with some MPs on them about protecting your lower level non-league football clubs. But we're talking about clubs. We're talking about profitable clubs that pay their players, and they decide to pay those players that amount of money. What we're talking about here essentially isn't a club, it's not a team, it's a sport. It's futsal itself. If you lose that national team setup, you will soon see a decrease in participation from the top downwards. Because like Cookie said, there's so many kids that feel like playing for England in futsal is a realistic opportunity, and you take that away, then they're not gonna know what to aspire to. There's no professional league in this country to aspire to go play in front of hundreds of thousands of fans over the season like you get in football. So I think that we're talking about a sport here, the potential death or demolition of a sport, and not just a single or a handful of clubs that make up a percentage of the country.
Did you want to add anything to that, Stuart?
Like Joe said, we're talking about a sport here. We're not asking to be saved. We're not asking for certain clubs for a handout. We're asking for what ultimately would be a drop in the hat of an ocean for the majority of professional clubs to save a sport, and the hundreds of thousands of people who want to play it.
What is it going to be saving, essentially?
In terms of the budget that has been cut, you're talking about handouts for grassroots clubs, so that they can get equipment that could be sent around to grassroots clubs throughout the country. I couldn't tell you how many there is. There's thousands and thousands of them. Each time you start up social media, there's a new futsal club started up because there's a call for it. There's kids and players who want to play it. You're talking about help funding for what is an amateur league, and as much as all clubs are self-sustainable, the FA took the league in-house last year and wanted to try and produce a better product. That I believe the funding for that league has stopped. The FA Youth Cup, again, another grassroots competition, has got some funding from Pokemon, who started a 3-year sponsorship 12 months ago, which was quite a sizable amount. Again, how much that's being filtered back down through into futsal, again, we don't know that kind of information. So yeah, and then obviously there's the elite pathway. So currently there is an emerging talent group for sort of the under-16s who play futsal. There's an under-19s group, there's an under-23s group, and then there's a senior group. And that pathway's taken the best part of 5 to 10 years to populate. And to have enough players to make it worthwhile, and now it is brimming with talent. Some of them twin track with football clubs. Some of them are just solely futsal players. And the other big one, that internally has been pushed a little bit, is a women's national team and a women's pathway. In the strategy that the FA released in 2018, one of their sort of key principles or key ideas was to have a women's team by 2021. By removing all the funding, the option to have a women's national team has obviously disappeared as well. And we're talking in an era where equality and inclusion is paramount.
I was actually kind of gutted then, because I was like, I could actually try out for the women's team because I'm a goalie-ish. But I really liked that the goals were a lot smaller than normal football, so I might actually be able to save a few pens.
Yeah, Payne can touch the bar.
Yeah, I can sympathise with you on that. That exactly is it. Like you've gone on, you've found something that you may be interested in, and then before you can even get going, your dreams already, all like the thoughts or the aspirations are gone. because somebody's going to be taking it away from you by not even having that women's team there. And that's something that's existed since futsal began in this country, that we're hoping to change. But now that's happening for everyone. It's like Cookie mentioned about the under-19s team. We're competing with great nations. We've beaten the likes of France for our under-19s team, and Italy, in competing in major competitions. And suddenly you're looking at it going, well, not only are our youth set up and our grassroots performing in these competitions, they're also getting results in these competitions, which means the pathway, and like Cookie said, we're not just populating it anymore. The pathway's got a certain level to it. You've got to be an international standard to play for that team. And that all comes through participation over the last few years, and the amount and the different kinds of people and players that are deciding to choose futsal as their chosen sport.
On the national side of things, could you not sort of appeal to FIFA itself? Because obviously they're going to be missing out if England can't be participating in the World Cups and things like that, on all the different tiers, the under-19s, under-23s and the seniors, you know? Is that not something that FIFA would be missing out on? They would want to have England in there, surely, and all of the other participating countries, surely they want that competition.
I think you're right. I mean, I think everyone around the world knows that England has a huge pull. You know, as a proud Englishman, it's a great nation. In terms of FIFA being able to put pressure on RFA, I don't think they will. I think ultimately it's RFA's choice. I think if you look around Europe, I mean, and don't necessarily quote me, I think there's only 5 other nations who don't have a competing futsal team. I think it's Liechtenstein, Iceland, Republic of Ireland and the Faroe Islands. And now all of a sudden you're going to add England into that. Now, no disrespect to those other nations, we don't belong in the same bracket as Liechtenstein, Iceland and the Faroe Islands. We belong in the bracket of France, Spain, Germany, Portugal. And it might take us a little bit long to get there, because at the moment, as a sport, we're not quite as respected in England as it is in other nations. But the route we were going and the progression that was being made with the pathway and through the coach education that's been brought in over the last few years, since the fast forward with futsal strategy in 2018, there was a clear path that, in the next 5 to 10 years, that we would not only be competing on a football landscape with those nations, but also a futsal in the futsal world. And like I say, it's a bit gutting for the next sets of generation that at the moment it appears that won't happen.
What people don't see about futsal is the fact of we do this because we love what we do, and it's not about picking up a paycheck, because there is no paycheck at the end of the day. There's not one. People make life decisions. I chose my university based upon playing for the futsal team that I play for. I chose to do a master's instead of going into work, because futsal offered me an opportunity and to go play for a coach that I previously played for. My current career in my day-to-day job was also based upon and factored into the futsal club I wanted to play for when I went into full-time work, and what worked for me, as Cookie will know, because he had a part to play in that, as we play for the same club in the domestic league. And I don't think people realise that. It's we're talking A-level choices, GCSE choices, university location, how much time you work, where you work. We give up that much free time. We use our own holidays from our own working, from our family, to commit to this sport. And we choose the jobs that we do and do what we do because we love it. And I'd like to know how many of those that get paid would do it solely because of the love for the sport. And to have that taken is just, and not to have it as an option, even worse. I mean, I've kind of had it as an option. I've had my experience playing at a World Cup and playing against a couple of decent nations in front of my family as well. Those experiences and those times you can't ever find or pay for. And the fact that I know in the current situation that there's kids, girls, boys of all different backgrounds and ethnicities that won't be able to have that opportunity, it's saddening and sickening in the same breath.
You've summed that up perfectly there, Joe. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on, and do let us know where we can find the petition to help you guys out.
There's a Twitter page. It's at Save Futsal. Website www.savefutsal.co.uk. The petition's all over social media from anybody that's involved, probably with the sport across the country.